Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hi, everybody.
Well, it's been a minute, it feels like, for us.
He looks at me accusingly.
Not accusingly, no.
It's my fault.
Just wanted to talk about why it's been a minute since we have been doing this. Actually, we had a bit of a hiatus. We took some time off because Robin had a surgery.
Yes, I had my hip replaced.
Replaced.
All of you who saw me hobbling around the Proven Conference last year, I'm going to outrun all of you this year. I can't wait.
Well, we're thrilled to be back, and we're even more excited to dive into the details of this episode, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the numbers.
Okay.
You'll hear a lot of people, including myself, say this is a numbers game. It's a numbers game.
Right.
Right. And it's easy to say it's a numbers game when it comes to the number of ASINs that you have. But I think there are a number of other places where it's a numbers game that really comes into play.
I think that's true. And you're not talking about how much profit you're making or those kinds of numbers. So you're talking about the numbers that you have to go through in tasks that you do.
Yeah,
things.
Pretty much. Yeah. All the different places where the numbers make sense.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
All right.
So before we get there, just say, let everyone know your recovery has been going well. Right?
It has. And everyone has been so supportive and reached out to me and offered their kind words and thoughts and prayers. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. You all have been wonderful, and I thank you.
Well, having a little bit of time away has actually given us some time to reflect and strategize and sharpen our focus. We've had a lot of time to talk, right?
We talk a lot anyway.
We talk a lot anyway, but you're glued to a chair or the bed pretty much for now.
Right.
And so anyway, so now we're ready to get back into the game with this renewed focus and effort. And we wanted to start this episode off with a question. Like we handle a lot of questions that we get from coaching clients, people in the community and whatnot. And so we thought this question is one that we've handled before, but always good to talk about it again.
Yeah, I think this continues to be at issue, and we should continue to work through this together. We get new ideas all the time, but yeah, let's talk about what is an adequate dollar amount to invest to start for inventory to start scaling quickly.
Yeah, one of the most common questions that we get, whether it's a coaching client or just someone who's come into the community, maybe doesn't have coaching yet, but wants to know, like, how much money should I plan on to invest in inventory if I want to scale my business quickly?
Yeah. So here, I'd like to kind of set a little bit of table here. This, when people are asking this, they're talking about the money that they have to take out of their pocket, right? So we want to know, how much money do I have to put out of my current budget, my current pocket, my savings, wherever I'm getting this? How much of that am I going to have to put out there to risk in the beginning? And the reason for that it's just how much initially is because once you take that out of your pocket and begin this process, it will soon start to replace itself and grow. So you won't keep taking money out of your pocket forever. The question, though, is, how much of that do I have to do initially to get started? And if I do more, does it go faster?
Yeah. Well, okay, let's tackle that in the two parts that you bring it up.
All right.
I think the short answer in terms of how much do I need to take out of my pocket to start with is you need to make sure that you have the margin in your life, financial margin too, in order to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, don't use your rent money for this.
Yeah.
That's
it doesn't
not
come
what
back
we're
that
recommending.
fast.
No.
It does not come back that fast. It comes back, lightning fast compared to a lot of other investment vehicles that are out
absolutely.
there,
Yeah.
but not
so fast that you can put it out today and have it back by the end of the month for your rent.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about.
So whatever amount it is that you have that is considered margin for you, take that amount. I mean,
right.
We've seen everywhere from $300 to $3,000 to $30,000,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's going to be totally up to you.
Yeah. And I always say, any more than, $2,000 or $3,000 in one chunk, you're not going to be able to spend that because you won't have anything to spend it enough to spend it on. So we're not looking for thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to get started here.
Right.
However, if you have that kind of backup, that's terrific, and that will make you feel more secure along the way. But it's pretty low risk to start anyway. So,
well, when we think about the things that will typically hold people back in this business, capital funding is a major one.
yes.
But the reality is, in the beginning, you don't need that much because you don't have that much to invest in just
Right.
yet. Right?
Exactly.
So one of the things I like to suggest is take the amount of money that you have, whatever that amount is, that's, if it's a chunk,
Right.
and divide that number by 6 or by 8.
Yeah.
And-
I'm leaning more towards 8 more and more.
Yeah. I would say,
Just because things are taking longer.
yeah, especially right now we're in Q4, and especially when your shipments aren't that big and you
Yeah.
don't have the flexibility of going Amazon optimized splits for
Right.
your inbound transportation, then you're going to be spending a bit more money, and it takes a little bit longer. I say more money on shipping. It takes a little bit longer for your items to get to where they can become available for people to buy. So I would say 6 is maybe less, what's the word I'm looking for? Conservative number. 8 is probably the more conservative number. But let's about why we're dividing by 8.
Yeah. Let's talk about that part. Yeah. We're dividing this chunk out. Let's say you got a $5,000 bonus and you want to spend that to get started.
Keep
right?
it, make it 4,000. So the math works out nice and easy here.
4,000. So you're gonna chop that up into 8 portions, which means there'll be what, 500 a week?
500 a week.
500 a week. Did I see that right? Math
Yes,
on camera.
I know, math on camera.
Warning. Olsons are doing math. All right. So we got 500 a week that we're going to spend. Now, the purpose of that is so that we can send a shipment this week and send a shipment next week and send a shipment the next week. Otherwise, if we put all of that, and we'll talk about why we probably couldn't do that anyway, but put all that $4,000 into our first shipment, we're going to be sending things out, and then we're going to be waiting. We're going to wait for it to get there. We're going to wait for it to get received. We're going to wait for it to get available to the customer. And it's going to be weeks, probably
And then
7 or
wait for
8
it
weeks.
to get sold.
Yes.
Then you gotta wait for Amazon to give you your money. And one of the key principles that we like to talk about here is building in the habit that is
Consistency, frequency.
frequency. Right.
The frequency of your consistency is
The frequency
important.
of your consistency. Yeah. You can be consistent and send them 4 shipments a year. You can absolutely do that.
Sure.
The frequency, though, that's like playing golf 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Right. If you only play golf once a quarter, well, you're not going to get any better.
Right.
Or you're going to get better
might be able to
very
maintain.
slowly.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can put a lot of rounds together in a short period of time and then do that consistently week after week or whatever it is, in the case of the Amazon business, week after week after week, then this is what really is going to build you a strong foundation for your e-com business.
Agreed. Well said. So we're building consistency rather than doing one thing and stopping and
Yes.
waiting. That's one reason. What's another reason that we want to chop that $4,000 up?
Well, just because we're not going to get that money back. And so it needs to last us until we start getting some money back from Amazon.
Right. Exactly. So we're going to spread that out a little bit. But also, our first shipment that we send in, we're probably not going to be able to spend $4,000 on it unless we're doing something, way more risky than we need to. If we're buying $4,000 worth of one product, that could spend our $4,000, but that's not a good test. That's not a good test. We want to break that up. And so in order to do that, we're going to have to find ASINs that are testable ASINs that we feel like we want to send in and test. We don't know yet if they're profitable, but they're worth testing to see if they're profitable. And it's going to take us a little time to find those. We won't be able to find probably 4,000 of those in our first week, $4,000 worth of those in our first week.
100%. You'd have to probably, if you're just starting out, research for several weeks,
Right.
maybe even several months in order to go spend that $4,000 in one shot.
So why wait until we have $4,000 worth of product to test before we even get started?
Well, first of all, that's too much of a test.
That's too much. Well, right. But even if we had that many ASINs and we waited until we found that many ASINs, it's an awful lot to do in one shot. We're not going to be able to learn as we go by those small tests,
right.
Small shipments. We learn something in this first shipment. Then we may not get to practice that for several weeks on a next shipment, but it will happen as we go along. We'll learn more and more and more.
Yeah, we get to leverage the ability to make incremental improvements.
Right.
Not only are we spending incrementally, okay, but we're learning incrementally as well. So a lot of what happens in the Proven Amazon course is just-in-time learning.
Yes.
Just like you wouldn't say, I got to read the whole library before I figure out what it is I'm going to do. No, you're going to start now and you're going to do these smaller shipments, spending smaller amounts of money, learn and tweak, learn and tweak, learn and tweak. Sure. And then by the time you get to the end of 8 weeks, oh my gosh, you've learned a ton and tweaked a lot already.
Exactly. Yeah. So that means that there are a lot of good reasons to split that the proverbial or the hypothetical $4,000 that we came up with. There's a lot of reason to split that. Now, there's another way we could do this.
Well, I was going to say, so just take that number. We said 4,000. I think 500 a week in the beginning is a good number, but you could do that with half the amount.
Sure.
Right? You could do that with $250 a week or a $2,000 starting fund.
Whatever amount you have that you can put in weekly is great, but if it's a low amount, the only thing that does is just adjust what price range you're looking at to start with. Yeah. If you're starting with, $150, you're going to want to probably find some lower sale price items because there'll be lower, investment items as well.
At least lower cost of goods.
Lower cost of goods.
Yeah.
So that's okay because those lower cost of goods aren't going to make you a whole lot of money. However, it's going to build. And so once you get profit back, that's profit because it's more than what you put in, right? It may be just a little bit at a time, but that will grow. Those who have just a little bit should expect a slow growth in the beginning. That's normal, but it still works, okay? But don't expect that you're going to get $5,000 back if you put $100 in on your first shipment. Yeah, that first $100 is going to come back one time with $5,000. It's not going to happen. I know these are extreme numbers, but expect what you're putting in to be the number that you're starting with and make your plan accordingly. It doesn't have to match other people's plans that went faster than that or had higher cost of goods than that, or maybe it's just not even your amount of money, but your amount that you're willing to start with.
Yeah, the amount right? Putting in the kitty to get this thing going. You can go approach this from a different or an additional angle, which is to consider adding an amount weekly to your cycle. Okay, right. So let's say you had $1,000 that you were starting with, and divide that by 8, and whatever. There's $125. I'm doing math on the camera again. But what if you could add $200 a week to that? Right. Yeah. So now we didn't have to have a pile of cash. We had a little bit every week we were able to contribute. I particularly like this approach because, in my opinion and in practice, it helps you maintain the momentum that you have, and it allows you to take advantage of new opportunities as they come about.
Right.
Right.
I agree. I kind of like this method a lot because you have a set amount that you're working with every week. And then as time goes by, you'll adjust that set amount. But it helps really in putting your processes and systems together to have that certain amount that you're putting in each week.
It also kind of mimics the cash back or the capital that you'd be getting back from Amazon. Only it takes them 6 to 8 weeks for you to start getting back. For you can, if you can contribute weekly to it, that is kind of like feels like your cash flow coming back from Amazon. One of the other reasons I really like this approach is that at a minimum, I think this allows you to achieve your goal of testing 5 new ASINs every week. Yeah. And if you were sending in 4 units of each of those ASINs, that's 20 units. If your average buy cost was $10, there's $200, right? Yeah. So if you could put $200 a week into this just to maintain your tests, and then the other stuff was the other capital that you had was maybe for your replens or whatever. I mean, you can mix and match these strategies. The bottom line is there isn't a set amount of capital that you need to have in order to get started on the business.
Yeah, and that's one thing to point out here, Brian, is that there's not a step 1, step 2, step 3, you'll make $1 million. That's not what we're selling here. This is not what we're trying to get across because it doesn't work that way. It's going to be your business and you're going to make decisions based on your experiences. So you have to get those experiences to figure out what kind of decisions you're going to make. And that only way to do that is to dive in and make something happen. Okay, so where does this 5 ASINs come from? Let's talk about that for just a second. We, Brian and I, have tested and done a lot of analysis on how much would it take in order for me to get, 6, 9, 12 months to get, $10,000 to $12,000 a month in sales. And if consistently we can send in 5 test ASINs a week, that means 5 ASINs with, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you choose as a test amount, test small. In each ASIN, it's enough ASINs that you have some balance in there in case something didn't go as expected for 1 or 2 of them, went worse than expected. And then you have enough ASINs in there to a balance, but you don't have so many that it's almost near impossible for someone doing part-time to find 5 ASINs that can be testable. We don't know if they're profitable or not. And the first few probably won't be. That's okay, because you get so much benefit out of that test itself.
Right. And actually, this Path to 100 ASINs workshop is all based on 5 tests a week.
That's right.
In about 6 months, you build up about 100 replenishable ASINs. And that's where that 5 a week really comes from. And this wasn't just us. This was hundreds of coaching clients that we've worked with.
Right.
And the analysis that came out of that, and what we have worked with the coaching clients on to build that book of business to get to those 100 ASINs in about 6 months. We used to say, use a 3-step check and a 4-week test.
3-step check and a 4-week test.
To build a 5-figure business.
In 6 months or less.
In 6 months or less.
Yeah. If you're consistent. It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, there are no promises. There are no guarantees there, but we have seen that done. So you can do it too. 6, 9, 12 months for sure. If you're consistent in testing these ASINs, you can absolutely do that. But, you need to learn how to do that. And we can show you a lot more deeper about that in the Path to 100 ASINs workshop.
Now, let's just dissect this question a little bit. I think I started off talking about 2 parts of this answer.
Yes.
This is maybe the second part of it. And the way the question was phrased was, they used the word quickly, to build a business quickly. And let's just talk about what quickly means.
Okay.
Maybe define or redefine what quickly looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about how fast can we do this.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to get into the case for this a little bit later on.
Okay.
Let's, instead of thinking about how fast, let's think about how predictable, how sustainable, and how scalable we can do this.
I'd rather take my time and make it sustainable than make some quick cash. I mean, you can certainly make some quick cash.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. People do it all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable.
Right.
So we're talking about a book of business that is predictable, sustainable, and scalable. It has all the abilities, right?
All the abilities. We want the sustainability. We want the scalability. We want the predictability.
Yes, very important.
All that leads to profitability.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's an ability that describes being able to do what I want, instead of having the 9 to 5 or whatever, right?
Yep.
Flexibility.
Yes.
That's what it is.
There it is.
So to your point, we want to build something that lasts, not a flash in the pan.
Right.
I hear you say this all the time. I could show you how to make $1,000 next week. But the key here, the secret, the strategy is figuring out how to build something that makes you $1,000 every week.
Right.
Right.
Or
not
more.
1 week.
And more.
Yeah,
and the
more.
ability to grow that. Yeah. That's what we're about. So the fundamentals matter there.
Yeah. So ultimately, the amount that you're going to invest matters, but more importantly is the consistency of your investment and the strategies that you put into place. Those are going to be critical for you in your long-term trajectory of your e-commerce / Amazon business.
True. And one more thing I'm going to say about this is, and this is why the big guys can't take it away from us. You may have a whole lot of money to start with, and that's great. Like I said, that can have its benefits. But to build your replens business faster, not so necessarily, because you have to find something to spend that money on in at least a sort of safe way. I want to say it's, no guarantees,
Low risk.
but in a low risk way. It's going to take you a little time to find ASINs to spend that money on, even if you're just testing. You can't just test everything that comes in front of you. You got to do a little bit of analysis. So that having a lot of money doesn't really help you grow faster. Having the the ability to find ASINs, that's going to help you grow faster. That's what happens.
I think if you want to put a concentrated amount of anything together in your business, let's not have it be money necessarily. Let's have it be the knowledge, the work that you are putting in to do what it takes to build the skill to be able to go find testable ASINs anytime you want.
Agreed.
Which, hey, is a nice segue into it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game.
The whole thing is a numbers game.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, there's so many different ways that we can apply it. But one of the things that usually comes up for me when I'm coaching newer coaching clients just setting expectations. Like if we're going to do this for the long term, our short-term success is going to be marginal.
Yes.
Okay. But our long-term success is going to be exponential.
Yes.
And so don't come into this, to the previous topic, thinking that you're going to get the sourcing thing figured out in a week and you're going to have your 7-figure year business. It takes time, and that's okay. Like anything worth building takes time and takes effort. And to really make it work, you got to understand that everything that we're doing here, not everything, but a lot of things that we do in the Amazon business is a numbers game. Yeah. And I wanted to just talk about some of the numbers where it does apply.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. First one is the number of ASINs that you have analyzed.
I like this one.
You like this one?
I do, because the number of ASINs is, I always say this in the Kickstarts, it's the most underestimated part of getting started in this business is how many ASINs you have to analyze in order to find a few that you can test. How many ASINs you have to test in order to find a few that you can replenish, and how many replenishments it takes to build your foundation.
Right. But let's not forget, like that could potentially sound overwhelming. Like, oh gosh, because I'll say, like, someone asked me the other day in one of the, I can't remember. Oh, there was the virtual conference.
Yes.
How many ASINs do you think I'd have to look at? And I said 1,000.
Yeah.
And I hope I didn't lose anyone with that answer. But I think
it's not unusual, though. I mean, any business, your main business is going to be analyzing, your products.
The things that, how many projects would I have to look at? How many resources would I have to look at if I was running a professional services business, let's say in the IT space?
What would you know about that?
How many of those projects and people would I have to look at and complete in order to figure out how I was going to be better, how I was going to be more profitable, how I was going to be more efficient.
To build a system around that.
To build a system around to get really good at it.
To make it happen over and over and over. Right?
Well, as someone who's been in that industry for a couple of decades, I can tell you it's many, many thousands.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't a handful.
Right.
In the beginning, it was a handful because that's all we had.
Yeah.
And then it was 100, and then it was 500, and then it was 1,000, and I don't even know how many thousands it is today. But it's a lot, right? And the same thing goes to our Amazon business when we talk about looking at ASINs. In the beginning, now, did I have to look at 1,000 ASINs to find the first couple of things that I sold? No. But the first couple of things that I sold, were they replenishable items for me? No. Right? They were one-time things, but it was helpful for me to be able to get the proof of concept.
Right, which is what we do in the Kickstart. We go through the process one time, even though we know it's probably not going to be profitable to send one unit of one ASIN. We learn so much just by going through that process one time that helps us to do it over and over and over.
Yep.
It's amazing where you get stuck in that first process, getting that first ASIN and that first ASIN prepped and shipped and sent in. It's amazing what people didn't know they were going to have to face.
So I'm reminded of like the first time that I did find a few things to sell, right? And I did make some profit on those first few things that I sold. They were not replenishable items for various reasons.
Sure.
Even though I wanted them to be, they weren't.
The test didn't work.
The test didn't work, but yet I got confidence.
Yes.
Okay? And that confidence was kind of good and bad. With a little bit of confidence, you think, now I got it figured out. So I'm going to go figure it out over here, and I'm going to go figure it out over there. I'm going to go figure it out with all the things, right? With the bundles, with the print on demand, with the PPP, with the wholesale, with the private label.
Distracted.
Right? Yeah, because I got a little bit of success. And this reminds me of my golf game. What happens when you get a little bit of success when your swing coach is standing behind you and they're like, no, do this, do that. They tweak you just right, and all of a sudden, you're striping it. You're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I'm going to go play right now.
Yeah.
And you get out there with this boatload of confidence. And then what happens? The game falls apart. At least it does for me. It falls apart because two things. I haven't really worked it in. I haven't developed that strategy, that approach through and through.
Right.
Right. It was for 5 magical seconds while my golf coach was standing right behind me.
Positioning you where you should be.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I know just enough to be dangerous. And here I go out there and all my bad habits come back.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing applied with the Amazon space, where I was like, I found a little bit of success and then went off. It took me a couple months to actually come back to where I needed to get to, like, just come back to my swing coach and say, okay, I'm totally off track. How do I fix this?
Yeah. And you know what? In working with a lot of people in the last couple of years, I've noticed that sometimes that is the process. I think that it was for you. Mm-hmm. That's part of what you have to go through.
Yeah.
To get back to, okay, now let's get serious. I know I got to take care of this first, and then I can move forward. And that's okay. You know, it's okay if that's what's happening to you. I wouldn't ask for it because, you know, it can be just a waste of time if you're asking for it. But if you find yourself having gotten there, it's all right. Get yourself back where you need to be.
Yeah.
Get your foundation built and then move forward from there. It's all good.
Okay, well, we digressed a bit from that topic.
We
but
don't digress.
It was like the number of ASINs analyzed, right?
Yes.
You start with a lot. It becomes more meaningful when you actually have stock in any of those ASINs. Then
yes.
That analysis can go further and the lessons learned can be so much greater.
Right. But
the more that you analyze, the better you get at finding those like hidden gems. You're like, it's not even hidden anymore. It's standing out like a sore thumb to you. Oh, I know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. And I think actually analyzing is different. I see a lot of people who skim over, 500 ASINs. Well, I'm a few here, a few there, and pick at them and, go, and they kind of do that for 500 ASINs and go, I looked at 500 ASINs. Well, that's not analyzing 500 ASINs. Whether you can test them or not, if you look at them, see what's going on, look further than just the current buy box price, you have a lot to learn there that you're really missing and putting yourself behind if you're not actually analyzing those ASINs. Take a look at what's happening. Learn what happens with an ASIN.
She's a tough teacher. She's like the hard teacher that I was like at the time. I really disliked, but looking back, I appreciated those tough teachers because it's like no, I don't mean just like look at it, because we do hear this a lot. Well, I looked at it. It's selling for the same price I can buy it for. Mm-hmm. At this moment in time, right? So
did you use that to learn anything?
Right.
Did you look at that ASIN that came in front of you in a way that would help you know something more about ASINs and how they work? What's different about that one and the last one? What's the same? And while I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time on any one ASIN, I want you to get a feel for what am I looking for in ASINs? Mm-hmm. A few things.
Okay.
All right. What else? Next numbers game.
The number of
I got stuck there.
Test ASINs per week.
Yes.
Talked about this earlier. Yes. This is like a key metric for how many ASINs you're testing on a weekly basis. And the goal is to consistently put new products into the mix, because testing is actually how you find the winners.
Yes.
So a steady pipeline of your tests is crucial for growth. So one of my questions when I get people who are stuck or like things aren't necessarily working the way they expected was, how many tests did you send in last week? Mm-hmm. How many tests did you send the week before that, and the week before that, and the week before that? Because I can pretty much tell you. So I'm not the
only tough teacher.
No, you're right. I can pretty much tell you based on how many tests you've sent in the last 6 to 8 weeks, what the vibrancy of your business is.
Sure. Yeah. So those tests are very important, and the consistency of those tests are very important. And I still keep finding myself saying, in the beginning, if you send 5 tests a week, those first 8 or 10 weeks, you don't see any return from that. You're not even through your 4 weeks of testing yet, but you're sending 5 tests a week. Pretty soon, 1 or 2 of those is going to become a replenishment. So your next shipment is going to have 5 tests and 1 replenishment. And then pretty soon you're going to have 5 tests and 5 replenishments in your shipment. Now get ready, because once you have 5 tests and 6 replenishments, 7 replenishments, 8 replenishments, and 5 tests, that's when the profits start happening. And it happens suddenly. It's like a hockey stick. You go along, you go along, you go along. You'll make a little bit, you don't make much. And then all of a sudden, you're focused in on, you've built enough of the profitable ASINs that these tests that don't necessarily work out every time don't impact your profit so much. You just have to get to that point of sending in more replenishments than tests, and that only comes from sending in tests after test after test consistently.
Yeah, it can be a little bit concerning for me as a coach when I know someone's trying to build a replenishable business when they find 2 good ASINs and they put all their money and effort and focus into those 2 ASINs.
And they stop
I've been
testing.
There,
yes.
And they stop testing. And because then what happens? They go away.
Yeah.
Over time.
Because anything can happen to any ASIN.
Yep.
And if you only have 2, something happened to one of those, it's going to hurt.
Yep. Okay. The next point where numbers matter.
Yes.
It's all a numbers game. How about the number of months, quarters, and years that you've been doing this?
The time invested.
Longevity actually does matter.
It really does.
And so just keep this in mind when you come into this business, and you may fall into the trap of comparing yourself to somebody else, or your business to somebody else's business, keeping in, without it being fair. Like the person that you're talking with could have been doing this business for 5 times longer than you. Right? Even if you've only
or have 5 times as much time to put into it each week than you have. Right.
But the number of months, quarters, and years that you can put together is going to be a big factor in your success. Okay. Especially stringing together successful months, quarters, and years.
Yes.
Okay. And success can vary, and I think it should from time to time.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be, as Jim would say, seasons in your business.
Absolutely.
Where things are just rocking and rolling, and like there's a lot of learning happening and a lot of new frontiers are being, exploited. But then there are going to be other times when it's a grind, and success needs to be defined differently in those 2 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it that we're trying to accomplish during this period of time? That's going to be different for everybody. And your book of business is going to look different depending on how you made those decisions.
The key here is consistency. And you can't have consistency if you only do this for a week. Right. For a year, if you've been doing this for a year, let's talk about your consistency. What have your shipments looked like? What have your tests looked like? How much time have you been investing in sourcing and all these different areas?
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons I like analyzing ASINs as a KPI as opposed to finding testable ASINs. Analyzing ASINs and putting together ASINs and sources, if that is my goal, that I do that 200 times a week, 500 times a week, whatever my goal is, that I do that many times a week. I may not find any testable. I probably will, but I may not find any testable in the first week. But if I do that week after week after week, and that's what I stay consistent with, I know that I'm going to find testable ASINs. And if I test those ASINs, I'm going to find replenishable ASINs. So let's start at the basics. Put together some some ASIN analyzing, add the authorized source to it, and start building up those ASINs. It's a numbers game. If you build enough of those, you're going to find testable ASINs. If you test enough ASINs, you're going to find replenishable. So that's where it begins. That's what I can control, how many ASINs I analyze and how many I can put sources to.
A great number that comes out of that is the number of viable ASINs that you have in your catalog.
Yes. And how do you consider a viable ASIN?
A viable ASIN is a listing that passes your pre-flight inspection, like the brand is right, it matches the title and the images and the bullets. There's nothing that is confusing about it. What were you going to say?
You're approved to sell it.
You're approved to sell it. Actually,
or
I don't even
could possibly be approved to sell it in the future. It's not one that you would never be approved for.
Right. and then you match up the viable ASIN with the listing with a trusted source. And the trusted source is the big brand names that, stores, the national chains that, right? And if you're ever in doubt, then ask the brand if the source you're considering is an authorized distributor of the product. And if they are, then you've got the trusted source and the trusted ASIN. Now it becomes viable.
So once you make a viable ASIN, you put those two things together. That's BI, that business intelligence.
Yep.
You keep that.
Yep.
That's work that you have done that you may or may not ever want to go back to, but that's where you start your database. When you start there and make your goal being putting together those, hundreds of those a week, you're going to have everything else is going to come to you, but you've got to start putting those ASINs with sources.
It reminds me of the tortoise and the hare.
Yep.
Okay, like there are two types of people, or two types of approaches, two different approaches I see where people are starting to build this business. The ones that are chasing the profitable ASINs right out of the gate, and then there are the ones who are building the list of viable ASINs. And every single time, the person who starts building the list of viable ASINs outlasts and outperforms the person who's out for the quick, I need a profitable ASIN today. What's my next profitable ASIN?
Right. Because they're doing that every time. Where if I'm building a database to go to that carves out a piece of Amazon, the part that I want, the cream of the crop, I'm not talking about in terms of profit. I'm talking about in terms of this is the database that I want to deal with. I don't want to look at all those ones that are not. The bigger I build that database, the more I have to draw from. And time will change those ASINs. You've got a source, it's a good ASIN put together already. Over time, we already know ASINs change all the time. They
do. And the testability and the profitability and even the viability of those ASINs changes all the time.
True.
So stay on top of it. But at least build your number. It's a numbers game.
Yes.
If I have 10,000 viable ASINs in my database, I'm going to outperform. I'm going to be able to build a shopping list anytime I want.
And it's much easier for me to feel like I've accomplished my goal if my goal is to analyze 200, 500 ASINs a week than if my goal is to find 10 testable ASINs a week.
Yep.
Much easier to find success and feel good about what I'm doing.
Okay, let's talk about the numbers game of the number of replenishable ASINs. Now, replenishable ASINs are at the heart of any sustainable replens business. Okay. It's not just about finding a product that sells once, like I was talking about a minute ago. It's about finding those products that sell again and again. And they will sell again and again for a while. Sometimes they'll sell again and then not again.
Right.
But finding the ones that you can just go add to your shopping list, put in your cart, send into Amazon, that's where the real joy of a replens business comes in. So how many of those replenishable ASINs are in your portfolio? So we were talking about earlier, path to 100 ASINs. If you've got 100 replenishable ASINs, depending on your price point, you're between $15,000 and $25,000 a month in sales.
Sure.
So the goal is to build systems and frameworks that will help you get to build your list of viable ASINs so that you've got your list of testable ASINs, so that you've got your list of replenishable ASINs.
Yep. Agree. That's the ultimate goal. And if we do enough for the first one, we'll eventually have enough of the third one, right?
As many as we want.
As many as we want.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
How about the number of successful transactions in the numbers
This is important.
game? I think it is too. Like we hear a lot of from folks who are like, oh, why can't I get ungated? Why am I not approved for this category or this brand? Or why is why can't I get the buy box? Or, any number of different things that come about. Because of what? Because sellers don't have as many successful transactions.
That's right.
And so Amazon pretty much holds that against you. Right?
Well, yeah, they give you the benefit of the doubt to a certain degree to get started. Everybody starts in the same place. They will not give you any more until you prove yourself trustworthy for more. And that what it takes is successful transactions. It takes successful transactions to increase your account health score. It takes successful transactions to get good seller feedback. It takes successful transactions in order for Amazon to understand that you know what you're doing and you're not going to upset their customers.
Mm-hmm. How about building the number of trusted sources?
Oh, that's important. Yeah, when I think about, now I talk a lot about how when we first started, and even now to this day, you will see that we only have about 5 or 6 sources that we use for, maybe 7 or 8 for reprints, but they're all ones that you know, Walmart, Target, Costco, Sam's, BJ's, Walgreens, Home Depot, Lowe's. Those are the sources that we still use.
It's like a dozen, to be fair.
Maybe a dozen? Okay. Yeah. I don't do the shopping much anymore, but yeah, okay, maybe there are a dozen. But what I'm trying to get to is that when I think about what these sources are, just those kinds of sources that we already know, love, and trust, we know that they don't sell brands that they're not authorized to sell. Mm-hmm. They're publicly traded companies. They're trusted sources. So if you go to Lowe's, for instance, and look through their listings to see if you can find an ASIN that matches that, then you can exhaust that whole source. And that's one of the ways I like for the people who are helping us to do is, hey, here's a source, go through this department and find me everything that has an ASIN that matches it. And we'll go from there. We're building a viable ASIN.
Yep.
A viable, yeah.
It's a viable ASIN.
A viable ASIN to put on our list, right?
Yep.
So sources can be more than you think.
And, the more reliable sources you have, maybe the easier it is to replenish and scale, but you don't need to have scores of them.
No.
In fact, I tell the story all the time. When I first started out, if it wasn't a deal at Target, for me, it just wasn't a deal. So all of my
limited.
60 plus quote unquote replenishable ASINs that I had at the time.
Yeah.
And I say quote because we didn't have necessarily that term back then, but applying what we know now to what existed then, 60 from just Target, and I hadn't even really busted out of the grocery section.
Yeah.
That was just on one side of the store.
Yes.
So I know, and we've added scores more from the rest of the store, but then you came in and added a half a dozen more stores, and then we added more and more, and then eventually wholesale suppliers, and, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is something too, when we say a lot of times, just Google it and find a source for it. When you're really getting into it and you're trying to build some efficiencies, you're going to want to be at the same sources as much as you can.
Yes.
Without Google doesn't always pull up, Walgreens or something that would be a viable source so if you build those, I want to shop at these and exhaust those first, it can be a lot more comfortable, even though it feels like it takes long. It feels like you're missing something.
Especially in the beginning when, it's like, you're standing in front of the vending machine.
Yes.
That, your typical vending machine has, 4 candy bars and 5 chips and all these different kinds of things in it, right? Well, let's say there's 40 items in total. But when you're going to Google and you're like looking for a particular product, it's like standing in front of a vending machine that has 40,000 items in it.
Yes.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it can be much more doable to have a limited subset of those sources to work from, and then just draw the line. If it's not at any of these sources, I'm out. Like, I'm not spending any more time looking around to see where I can buy this particular product.
Right.
There are so many other ASINs out there.
That's the way I have found that it's worked best for me.
Yep.
Okay. We got to keep moving. Boy,
yes.
We're getting stuck on every one of these points.
The number of adjustments and tweaks that you will make to your business.
Yeah.
The numbers game. And this is one of the reasons we touched on this earlier about how you want to be doing things weekly.
Right.
At worst, bi-weekly, in my opinion. Monthly becomes too slow in order to implement the changes, the tweaks, the small micro improvements that you can make in your business so that you're making week over week improvements overall.
Agreed.
And the more of those that you make, the more business intelligence you're going to have.
Yes.
And that fine-tuning process is basically the game changer over time.
Right. But you can't change it every time.
Yeah.
You got to actually test a process and then make an adjustment and test and make an adjustment continually. Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could talk about the things that are a numbers game. We might have to have a second episode of this at some point in the future. But let's leave it there for now.
All right. Well, speaking of numbers,
Okay.
you know something about numbers when it comes to Keepa, don't you?
Well, here's a fun stat before we actually get to keep it. Did you know that there are more possible combinations of card shuffles?
Yeah.
I'm talking about a single deck
like
of
a 52
cards, right?
Card deck.
Are more combinations of card shuffles from a single deck of 52 cards than there are atoms on Earth.
Wow.
Like,
I would not have guessed that.
astronomical number.
That's
Huge,
incredible.
right?
Okay.
It is a near statistical improbability. In other words, it's a virtually 0% chance that any two shuffles would ever be identical.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Because don't you ever feel
that
like,
kind of blows my mind.
oh, these cards didn't get shuffled. This is the same hand I had last time. Right?
I have felt like that. I have felt like that.
But we're just looking at a subset versus
Right.
the whole thing, right?
Okay.
So, all right. So why are we talking about card shuffles?
Yeah. Why are we talking about card shuffles?
Well, because with the Keepa product finder, I actually went through here and counted it up when I was making the Keepa 360 course.
yeah.
There are over 400 filter switches and range settings, or dials.
Yeah.
Filter switches and knobs. Yep. Available in the Keepa product
levers.
finder. So this means that if you actually went through and did the math on this, that the odds of coming up with the exact same set of ASINs when you're going in and doing a search are incredibly low if you continue to change and tweak your criteria a little bit.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well,
Agreed.
Like,
Well, we've been doing
right?
it for years and years and years, and we keep finding our new test ASINs every week.
So Keepa helps you find unique opportunities every single time.
Yeah.
And this is a tool, like you said, that we do use every day.
Right.
And let's face it, the landscape of the ASINs, that's the seascape of ASINs, is changing all of the time. And
Always.
Keepa is one of the tools that you can use to stay ahead in this. And you can learn all about Keepa in our new Keepa 360 course. Go check it out at provenamazoncourse.com/Keepa360.
Yes, this has been really fun putting that together. And there's a beginning, an intermediate, and an advanced portion to it as well. So I mean, we take you all the way through all the pieces and parts of Keepa and how it works, what you need to know to get started, and how you can build upon that. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback on this.
Yeah, we have. And it's designed to kind of meet you where you are and then help take you to the point where you are the master when it comes to using Keepa.
Exactly. All right. Do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
I do. Wow. You can tell we haven't been here for a while because we're at like 50 minutes and I feel like we just
have
got
so
started.
much to say. I know. All right. Thanks for bearing with us.
This, one of my favorite quotes.
Oh, everything's your favorite.
This one comes to us from James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Ugh, that's so true. So true. You got to put those systems together because that's what happens when you're not on your game, when you're having not the greatest day, you fall on your systems, and your systems have to be up to par. Or
we talk about this all the time about when you put something in place, like make that be the thing. Don't make an exception every single time you're doing something. This could be in your sourcing and your prepping and your shopping, in your back end management or your business acumen. Like, have a process that is followed every single time.
not that there won't be exceptions.
There will be exceptions.
But everything can't be an exception.
Right. So goals are great, but without your strong systems in place, it's really just a fairy tale, dream, whatever you want to call it, right?
It's the dream. The dream's still there, but it's not happening if you don't have some systems to keep it moving forward.
So our goal is to build systems that allow us to take this consistent action, right?
Right.
Because really, we've been talking about what a numbers game. And so if having the systems in place is how we actually win the numbers game.
Right.
How we're able to string successful weeks and months and quarters and years together.
Right.
Right.
Right. We're not going to build it all one day, but stringing together successful weeks into successful months. Stringing those successes together is what matters.
And I think the most important ingredient of all of that is
test more ASINs.
Testing more ASINs.
Let's go find some more ASINs, Brian.
Great to catch up with everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. Before we go, once a week or so, we love to bring on my good friend, Jeff Schick. He's been serving our community with excellence for quite a while now. So many users in our community, so many sellers, I should say, use his services with anything Amazon legal or policy. He's your man, and he's always got some good insights for us. So what do you got on your mind today, Jeff?
So want to just talk quickly about Amazon and their reimbursement claims process. So some sellers are unaware. Believe it or not, I talk to sellers that don't know that Amazon loses inventory in their warehouse. And historically, the way Amazon worked, if they lost or damaged items in the warehouse, they would not reimburse you proactively for it. You have to request the reimbursement. Now, under the latest rendition of the reimbursement policy that's is currently in effect, you have 18 months to file those reimbursement claims, or else you forfeit the right to it. So what that means is that if you go in and file claims, you can go and look at inventory for up to 18 months from today, going backwards, and file claims today for those damages and losses and such. But however, the big thing that's changing is that on October 23rd, that 18 months is changing to 60 days. So we're going from, a very long time to only 60-day, look back period. So very much shortened. And anyone who has, claims that are greater than 60 days, but less than 18 months as of October 23rd, you can't claim those. Amazon just gets to keep that money and that's it. So what that means is that you've got less than a month now to go in and submit those claims. Now you can either do it yourself, you can utilize a service, or for clients that are in our reimbursement service, it's actually complimentary. We'll go in, our team of former Amazon, seller performance associates will actually go into your account. They'll look for those claims and those eligible inventory. They'll submit them on your behalf, and then you get to keep the money. We don't charge a service fee. There's no commissions. So if we recover, we recovered $4,000 for one seller the other day, and they got to keep $4,000. And they didn't pay us anything extra beyond their monthly retainer cost. So definitely worth it to have us go in if you're one of our clients, or if you want to become one of our clients, we can go in and get you some money back from Amazon, hopefully. Starting November 1st, they're allegedly going to be proactively reimbursing people, but as most Amazon programs go, oftentimes the marketing speak and the SOP speak are two different things. So we'll see how that
Sure. Makes
out.
total sense. So there's a window of opportunity right now for no additional cost besides your very low monthly retainer fee. You're providing the service of reimbursement.
Exactly.
Basically. So yeah, fantastic. It's something, if you've been selling on Amazon for a while and you haven't turned this on, Amazon probably owes you money.
Yeah.
And you might as well just get that as a great side benefit of working with Jeff and his team just by putting them on retainer. So jeffschick.com, SCHICK, jeffschick.com is the website. And you guys have been a great sponsor of our community for a long time. Thank you for the great nuggets and the tips that you give us every week. Man, let's do this again next week. All right.
Sounds good. We'll be here.
Appreciate you, Jeff.